Hey, what's up guys? Dr. D here with another video on music stuff. Today we're going to be diving into guitar, and I'm going to share with you the 2 things that you can learn and you can use that to play across the entire fretboard. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and check it out. Okay, so this concept I call the befores and afters. And basically what that means is when you play scales or chords or arpeggios or whatever it is, you're going to either, most of the time, root with a finger in the back side of your hand. So for instance, say this is my root here on B, and I play a pentatonic scale, major pentatonic scale. I am playing what I call a before, okay? Because most of the notes come before on my hand, and this being the root. And the other way is afters, and that would be, for instance, a major pentatonic scale starting on B again, but where most of the notes fall after my initial root. So that's the concept. Now let's talk about what a pentatonic scale is. Pentatonic scale is a 5-note major or minor scale, and it leaves out, if you're thinking of the major scale being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 octave of the root again, you're leaving out the 4 and you're leaving out the 7. The 4 being like kind of like the sus sound. It's a half step above the 3rd, right? And then the 7th is a half step below the root, the leading tone. So when you leave those out, you have a scale that goes, if you do it in a linear fashion, like on a piano or a guitar string, it's a whole step, then a minor 3rd, then a whole step, and then a minor 3rd. Okay? So because that is all a pentatonic major scale is whole step, minor 3rd, whole step, minor 3rd, that is the the intervallic relationship of a major pentatonic scale. It doesn't matter what instrument you play it on or where you play it, it's always the same distance of the notes if you want it to sound like a major pentatonic. So that's the principle we're working off here. We'll start on A here. This is a major pentatonic. The whole step is going to bring us up to the first finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, then the 3rd finger on the same string, and then we're going to the next string. There's that, and then another 3rd finger, and then the 1st finger on the root. So once again, that's pinky on the root, 2nd, 3rd note in the scale, skipping the 4th, here's the 5th note, here's the 6th note in the scale, and then we're back to the octave of the root. So 4th finger, 1st finger, 3rd finger, 1st finger, 3rd finger. And that pentatonic scale, major pentatonic, it sounds like My Girl. I've got sunshine. Right? So you can always recognize it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move that down to the next string. Okay? Now here's the thing about the guitar strings. E to A, that is a 4th. A to D, that's 4 notes away as well. From D to G, that's a 4th as well. Now from G to B, that's a major 3rd. So that's a smaller interval, a smaller distance between the G and the B string than any of the other strings. So what happens is when we have a pattern that starts out down here in the strings that are all tuned in 4ths, when we hit the B string, we have to compensate by moving whatever note is here up 1 fret, because that distance between these 2 strings is lesser. So basically, if we're going back to that pentatonic starting on the E string here, okay, cool. Now when we drop it down to the next string, this is going to be starting on a D, and then the next string here is the B string. I need to compensate, so instead of 1st finger, it's the 2nd finger. Okay? Now, when I drop it down to the next string, same stuff applies. So usually it starts on the pinky, 1st finger, 3rd finger. Now here we are hitting the B string, so I have to compensate. Instead of this, I'm going to do 2 and 4, and then from there's my octave. So pinky, 1st finger, 3rd finger. Then we have to switch to 2nd finger, 4th finger. Okay? And if we continued, our next note would be, instead of the first finger, it's going to be the second finger because we're already hitting the B string. And then continuing. And then there's where my octave would be. So this works across the strings as long as you realize that the G and the B string have a smaller interval. Whenever you hit the B string, that's when you have to compensate by raising the note a half step up to compensate for that smaller gap of distance. Okay, so let's look at the afters. So for afters, our finger pattern that goes root on the second finger, second note of the scale on the fourth finger. I'll just say the fingers. Second finger, fourth finger, first finger, fourth finger, first finger, fourth finger. So there's our my girl. Right, root, second, third, fifth, sixth, root again. Okay, drop it down to the next string. Cool, we haven't hit the B string yet, so we're all good. We can stay in the exact same pattern. Now when we drop down to the next string, we are going to be interacting with that B string, but we know what to do. We just raise it a half step, whatever the fingering was. So the fingering is second, fourth, first, fourth, and then we hit that B string, first, fourth, but raise the half step. Okay, and then when we go to the next string, same deal. We're going to start with this one. Okay, B string, compensate. Right? So instead of maybe going second finger, fourth finger here, we could start with our first and third because we're going to end up shifting to this position anyway. So first finger, third finger, first, fourth. Okay? So, so basically this is, like if you learn in the cage system, which is something you should learn if you don't already know it, this is another system that reinforces that. Just like when you play all these scale patterns and stuff, whatever, like it's basically intervals of the major scale or whatever scale it is. It's the same interval, just on different parts of the guitar. And the challenge of the guitar being that it's like one piano on each of these strings. So it's like 6 pianos and all the pianos are offset. So there's some complexity in with the way that you play across the, you know, down the fret across the strings. And the strings are all kind of different intervals, where a piano is just literally just like playing one guitar string, but you can play multiple notes on it at once. Anyway, so let's try this idea. This can be applied to any scale. I mean, harmonic minor scale, melodic minor scale, modes of any scale, whatever the scale or chord or arpeggio is, you treat it the same way. You figure out how to play the before version of it and the after version of it, and then you can cycle this through the strings, down the string set, and down the fret, and that's where you can learn the subtle compensations for the B string. So let's do one other scale here. Let's do a major scale. So for a major scale, I'm going to start with my pinky, first finger, third finger, fourth finger, first finger, third finger. I'm going to reach back with my first finger to catch the seventh, and then shift into the root there. Okay, so let's move that across to the next string set. Okay, it's the same idea. Fourth finger, first, third, fourth, and then here's where I reached back, but I don't have to do that anymore. I get my seventh there and my root there. So very similar. That's what we call the C shape in Caged World, just like this one that we started on here was the G shape in Caged World. This one being the C shape. Okay, now we go to the next string. We're starting on the D string, so probably going to be the D shape, right? So let's just follow the pattern of fingerings. First finger, or fourth finger, first finger, third finger, fourth finger. We have to shift here to close it out. Okay, so let's switch to the afters. Okay, same thing with the afters. Our pattern for this one is a little bit more compact and easier to see, but it goes second finger, fourth finger, first finger, second finger, fourth finger, first finger, third finger, fourth finger. Okay, so that's the pattern of the major scale in an after position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then octave of the root again. Okay, so we'll shift it down to the next string. Luckily we don't hit the B string on these 3 strings, so same exact pattern. Second, fourth, first, second, fourth, first, third, fourth. Okay, now we go to the next string. This is where we're going to interact with the B string. So we've got our second and fourth, our first, second, fourth, and then from here we compensate. First, third, fourth, and there we go to close it out. Okay, once again on the starting off of the D string here. Shift it on that B string. Okay, so here's the final one, starting on the G string here. Now instead of first finger on this fret, I'm going to shift it up. Second, fourth, first, third, fourth. So here, instead of like starting here and ending up here, we might as well just start with our first finger and third. First, second, fourth, first, third, fourth. So that is the idea. These are 2 core shapes, a before and after. Doesn't matter what scale or what arpeggio or what, you know, note system this is, whatever sound you're going for. It could be, you know, like I said, as advanced as you want. It could be, you know, the Super Locrian scale, you know, the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale, or some crazy stuff like that. But the idea is if you learn the core fingering in a before and an after shape, you can move that across the fretboard and start to see more of the intervallic relationship of these 2 things. And when you learn this and put this into a cage system thing where you're learning the 5 basically inversions of whatever scale chord system this is, they're made up of that. That's the DNA of every single cage shape, is going to be part of a before and part of an after. Okay guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications and like this video if you like it. And also, I'm always available for virtual lessons, so just reach out to me with information and contact stuff down there in the description. All right, well, hopefully this is helpful, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, cheers, peace out.